You see? Now all autonomy of our people, the mass of people, now known as Shudras and Atishudras, ordinary people they were, Tamil speakers, Telugu speakers and any speakers they were. They cannot be called Shudras. All these people lost their autonomy first of all in political economy. The old political economy of land. Because I have been tilling this land for generations together, but somebody comes with a piece of paper, British given paper, Patta. You are only a tenant at will. I can kick you out any time. But we have been working here for several generations, centuries in fact. Paper regime. This is a paper has come in now. Do you have a paper, piece of paper? You don't have a piece of paper, then nothing, useless. You see? And they didn't gain anything in the new political economy of employment, education and representation, political representation also. Because we are low caste and untouchables of all. You know, actually, it is a Brahmin who is an untouchable. My Malayali friends would know that. Tinda Tirumeni, whom do we call untouchable body? Tinda Tirumeni is a Brahmins. Rest are all untouchables. In fact, actually, you know, when I was writing this Ayodhidasar's book, it was being typed by a Brahmin Iyengar friend of mine, and I was feeling how this fellow feels so many times the word parayar occurring it and all that, he must be going there. So what do you say with the meaning of? You are often typing parayar and all that. What do you, according to you, is the meaning? Of course you got frightened, you know, I mean, sir, I'm a typist, let me type and all that. No, I said we are friends only. You know. See, the other side's knowledge we hardly have. Through our politics, we have separated ourselves and we hardly know what the Brahminical thinking goes on. But after pushing several times, he started saying, sir, among you, you may have umpteen number of distinctions. But as far as we are concerned, sir, all of you are only parayar, sir. Para Iyer. One who is not an Iyer Brahmin is a parayar. See, from their point of view, all this mass of people are useless fellows. It has, of course, the racialist tone of, you know, non-Aryans and so on. So, in fact, it is how a majority of people can be considered untouchable by some small fellows who says, don't touch me. Don't touch me means, yeah, you are the untouchable. But the whole thing is naturalized and then we very nonchalantly use for a group of people in our country, academics, thanks to academics. Thanks to academics. Upper caste, lower caste. There are no human beings like upper caste, lower caste. There are human beings. Upper caste within the Brahminical idiom. Every time you write the word upper caste, you put the bracket within the Brahminical idiom. You have to, because of circumstances, social sciences in India will be different. If you are sensitive to social sciences, then you have to write within the Brahminical idiom. Brahminical idiom is everybody accepts, na? Everybody accepts, and so you are an upper caste, I am a lower caste. Is that a description of human beings? Now all this came about during the first period. The actual social effect of this is that they lost not only in political economy, but then they lost also in a non-material culture. All their autonomy, their Saivite group, their Vaishnavite group, there is Veerabrahmam group, there is Mariamman cult, there is a Krishna Bhakt, the Jagannath temple. All that autonomy came to be relieved of them, and they became slaves of a singular entity called Hindus. Material autonomy, immaterial autonomy were lost, and with that the crisis came within the society. We have lost everything, whatever we had, and we didn't gain anything. The second century of the British rule starts with an enormous crisis. The situation has come, the British cannot anymore keep up the promise that I won't interfere. I won't interfere. They have to interfere merely for the sake of saving their skin. You see? Because there is a whole the whole country across the subcontinent was aflame with all kinds of things, including grain looting, new cults coming up, and then kind of thuggery, and then of course Buddhism, revival of Buddhism, conversion to Christianity, and all that kind of. On these, M.N. Srinivas suggested, it was like a prison house. They are running away from a prison house. The imagery of a French Revolution. Bastille being broken open and people running. That's the way the people are running, welter, all directions. Okay? You'll find that period enormous number of movements across the country, all of them. Now the British was compelled to change, don't anymore collect revenues and simply say do whatever they are bidding, they say tell you to do. Okay? Meanwhile, in the England also undergoes change. From a buying country, it became a selling country, industrialized country. So that not anymore they require the support of these local satraps. So they start initially making some adjustments in the rule. Tenancy rules start in that period. Chotanagpur tenancy rules and then other rules that tenants cannot be evicted and so on. Marginal things are given to the Muslims who said, you have been kings and emperors, you threw us to the dust, so you have to give something to them. And then the South Indians looked at Brahmins, non-Brahmins, they said, you are given to the Muslims, you are given to these people, so you have to be also given. Some concessions had to be given, some initiation, some sort of quota for the lower groups of people were given. At that very instant, this group of emerging, consolidating group of Brahmanical groups everywhere, emerging as a new middle class, they said, we are having a honeymoon with these Britishers. It's a sangam of northern Aryans with the southern Aryans, western Aryans and the eastern Aryans, materialist Aryans with the spiritualist Aryans, long last brotherhood and all that. It's a camaraderie displayed between the top echelons of our society, which is basically Brahmanical, with the British. But when the British started talking to the last bencher, did you get your share somewhere? You should get something. Hey, these fellows are going against custom and tradition. They should talk to us. We will talk to our underlings there. Who is he to talk over our heads to the last bencher? He is throwing now crumbs to the Muslims, to the Dalit, lower caste people and non-Brahmin groups and so on. So the honeymoon turns bitter, and what was so far the providential government, what were we? We were nothing. The British came and we became everything. That was the sentiments, modern sentiments. But at this, immediately changed. This is a satanic government, it should be thrown out. Birth of Indian nationalism. We are fighting against caste. We are fighting against what you call religious slavery and so on. We should have our reading of colonial rule peculiar to us. We cannot say ditto to all what our opponent party says, and then say we accept all that but give us some reservation, that is enough. Now that is the crisis we are having. We should have our own reading of colonialism, we should have our own reading of nationalism, we should have our own reading of what we want in the future. You see? That means we have to do some intellectual exercise. So when the British started changing their strategy, these people turned colonial, anti-national. Anti-colonial and anti-imperial. On the basis of what? On the basis of the tradition that had been evolved in the previous century. One India, one caste, one religion. These are all colonial orientalistically created platform, simply turned as a platform for nationalism. You see? This anti-colonial myth, many of us are become defensive. The lower caste groups are not anti-colonial, they are becoming protege of missionaries and so on. Colonialism, when does colonialism get dismantled? By rhetoric? I go and learn Rousseau, Locke, Mill and all that in Oxford, Cambridge, and then say I am enthused that foreigners should not rule us, they should be driven back. Certainly not. It is about the political economy in the existential situation and politics. In that context, who is the anti-colonial? It is the lower caste group, so-called lower caste groups is the anti-colonial. The rise of the mass of people clamoring for their share deprives the colonial cake, scuttles the colonial cake. The fellow finds that you also demand, okay, I give you also demand, you keep giving you. Finally, I find nothing in my hand. I said, keep it for yourself, and he walks out. Colonialism is rendered useless. So the rise of the lower, so-called lower orders of Indian society is the beginning of dismantling colonialism. We have the right to say that we are the anti-colonialists. It is our surplus that he was carrying home. You see? Now we have to integrate all this within a holistic viewpoint and suggest that it is we, the working groups, or it has been variously defined as the productive group, that has been kind of the stable of this country.